Dear friends of IAEE and dear participants in the 17th World Conference on Earthquake Engineering, I wish to express my sincere welcome to the new IAEE initiative named Vinta Masters. This initiative is in line with IAEE's effort to promote diversity in the research and practice of earthquake engineering and earthquake disaster mitigation. Here we try to connect legendary figures who have made outstanding contributions to the advancement of earthquake engineering with those who belong to the younger generations and will lead our disciplines now in the future. Meet the Masters are the video lectures featured with legendary figures in which we can listen most vividly to how they worked in various places and interact with other people to lead their research and practice. This video lecture features Professor Theodossios Tacios of National Technical University of Athens in Greece. First, a close colleague of Professor Tassios, Professor Elizabeth Vincelou, will introduce Professor Tassios and give us a brief history of his major accomplishments. The introduction will be followed by Professor Tassios' unique video lecture, which he kindly prepared for this special occasion.
Dear colleagues, it is a great honor for me to introduce to you Professor Tacios, my professor and mentor, with whom I had the privilege to work for many years. Preparing this short presentation, I was aware of the fact that it would not be possible to summarize Tacios' career in a few slides. Thus, I made the decision to focus on two aspects: his research work and his teaching, without underestimating his professional and code-making work, his positions in leading international associations, etc. I believe that this choice of mine can evidence two major dimensions of his personality, namely a passion to extend and deepen his knowledge in many fields and the charisma of teaching. This table shows that Tacios has published and continues to publish in journals and conference proceedings, as well as in books, his work on engineering and also on education, philosophy, and ancient technology, showing a scientific profile rather uncommon in our era, where extreme specialization characterizes more and more the research work in engineering as well. Allow me to go quickly through this list of research themes Tacios has worked on during his long and fruitful career. They include design and characterization of materials, in situ investigations, soil mechanics, repair and strengthening of reinforced concrete and masonry structures, and indeed, seismic behavior of RC and masonry constructions. In this field, his research comprises experimental work and modeling on beam column joints, on bond between steel and concrete, on concrete jacketing to reinforced concrete columns, on shear transfer across interfaces, on short columns and shear walls, ductility of columns, seismic behavior of masonry infilled reinforced concrete frames, assessment of historical buildings, estimation of Q factors of reinforced concrete buildings, etc. Allow me to say a few words about the way Tacios treats any scientific research independently of the specific subject he is tackling each time. After choosing the research subject on the basis of his scientific interests and inspired by the needs of the engineering community, he develops a preliminary physical model. It may be crude, not accurate. However, it allows for the main parameters to be identified and for their effect to be estimated. This is extremely valuable, as such mechanical models can guide the efficient planning of an experimental work with the purpose of reaching conclusive and unequivocal results. Then comes the exhaustive evaluation of test results, detailed modeling and calibration of the model on the basis of experimental data, parameter analysis, and last but not least, due and sensible simplifications to reach design models adequate for code of practice. I have seen several times Professor Tassios following this pattern with most success, and I saw him following the same logic when teaching. This brings me to the last point of this short presentation, Tacios teacher, because this is a field of excellence of the master we honor today. Tacios has all the qualities that make someone a charismatic teacher. Knowledge and continuous self-improvement in the field are the obvious prerequisites. Good presentation, even for the simplest course. He keeps saying that what matters is not only what you present to students, but also how you present it. Willingness to transfer knowledge to the students in a way to make them feel and share his enthusiasm. Being a man of culture, Tassios is able to make a lecture more inspiring and attractive, and thus didactically more efficient, whereas his humor makes the audience relax, enjoy, and more easily assimilate even subjects complex by nature. All this is combined with most respect towards the students, week after week teaching, even when his international duties required frequent trips away, and everyday availability to meet students and respond to their questions and queries. Last but not least, teaching is an act of performing. And Tassios, as you will see yourselves in a minute, is a great performer. Professor Tassios, the floor is yours.
Good day. I feel indebted to the organizers of the 17th World Conference on Earthquake Engineering. In their generosity, they thought that an old colleague of theirs merited the ancient professional appellation of master, that is, a person skillful in his or her art. Socrates, however, the ancient Greek orator, used to say that even if others have a good opinion of you, you yourself are conscious of the truth. However, as you see, I am profiting from the kindness of the organizers and have in mind to improve myself by means of this fundamental in psychology, as you know, this mechanism of confession, an avowal of beliefs and acts to an assembly of young colleagues. This, so to say, mirroring of myself in your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, will help my self-consciousness more clearly to take stock of my virtues and sins. And I must thank you in advance for your patience. I should also add this. I'm afraid that Professor Vigileo's generous presentation will have increased your expectations. I hope I shall not disappoint you by what follows. Quite frequently, friends around the globe used to ask me, how did it come about that you, a Greek by cliché man of letters, ended by studying engineering. It may be of some interest to answer this question now, stating that it was not only as a consequence of my interest in mathematics. I was already a student in the Faculty of Mathematics when I changed my subject to civil engineering. I did it because of reasons that I would call socio-political, a term that will be explained immediately. My father was an agronomist, and in one of his books, I had read the following sentence: for a given dragging force acting on a plow, the optimum three-dimensional shape of the plowshare is a problem of maximization based on methods of differential geometry. Revelation. That is, using some magical mathematical symbols, a kind of abracadabra, so to say, you allow the poor peasant to get back to his family earlier and somehow richer. This transubstantiation of knowledge into human good was revealed to my juvenile soul, and thus engineering gained my devotion. So the pleasure I felt when I designed and constructed my first pre-stressed concrete bridge in Greece, as early as in the 50s of the last century, was due both to the joy of creation and to the obvious social benefits of the agricultural regions connected by the bridge. But the greatest emotion related to my profession has been due to earthquake engineering. In the 1950s, as a reserve officer of the Greek Corps of Military Engineers, I found myself staring at the completely devastated city of Zante in the Ionian Islands, and strongly felt the duty to understand the seismic behavior of soils and structures. This sense of duty soon turned into a passion, accentuated by several subsequent experiences of strong earthquakes all over the world, where I repeatedly observed that earthquake damage was different depending on social class. Poor people suffered more. Early enough, I was initiated in soil dynamics because I refused to be an oculist of the right eye only, that is, specializing in structural seismic engineering before understanding fully how the entire seismic phenomenon comes about. On the other hand, since Greece is a small country and had in the 1950s recently come out of long war conditions, engineering research and applications should be obligatorily carried out side by side. Therefore, I first founded two private companies, Geo Research and Hellenic Foundations. Their achievements in both laboratory and field applications contributed in shaping the development of these sections in my country. Besides, 70 years ago, seismic design in a particularly seismic region like Greece was carried out based on mathematically elegant but physically inappropriate elastic methods, ignoring basic concepts of the nature of inevitably post-elastic behavior of structures during an earthquake. Early enough, I was among those who attempted a radical change of the Greek seismic design regulation of 1954. In collaboration with my then student and later distinguished scholar George Gazetas, we drafted in the 1970s a preliminary code for seismic design based on international concepts of post-elastic behavior. For more than 6 years, there was strong opposition of several professional groups in my country to any modernization of our codes. This opposition retreated only when I channeled my code-making efforts into the frame of the European Union. In the meantime, I had learned my lesson. The D'Alembert inertia forces are applicable to social affairs also. Let me refer somehow to teaching and research. As is well known, the most effective instruments to modify social and professional attitudes is education, of course. I tried to apply the same principle of as much as possible broad interdisciplinarity in both my teaching and my life. The problems an engineer is invited to solve, ladies and gentlemen, are rarely, if ever, unidisciplinary. I started my assistantship in the university in a well-equipped laboratory of strength of materials, and I derived endless pleasure, let me say, from observing through my own eyes the gradual development of strain and stresses, and more dramatically the cracking and instability phenomena up to failure. This was another revelation for me. It was a sort of rehearsal of the birth and the death of structures or soil bodies. The pleasure was doubled when I carried out these experiments together with students, and I was thus able to observe their own intellectual satisfaction. During my first period as university professor, I was fortunate enough to teach a series of short courses from mechanics to analysis, design and construction of technical works. In the meantime, as a consultant and inspector engineer, I aimed at a completion of my own engineering education, I admit it, by means of an intensive participation in the construction stage proper. I repeat, construction stage. I think that this way I was finally ready to teach reinforced concrete structures under both static and seismic actions at the Faculty of Civil Engineering of my university. I wouldn't dare recommend, of course, to younger colleagues the same rather ambitious philosophy, but I firmly maintain that the broader the basis, the more stable is the body. I was also fortunate to be offered the opportunity to lecture before audiences all over the world, from San Francisco to Nanjing. Similarly, I have taught short courses in foreign universities, such as the Tongji University in Shanghai, China, and Pavia University, Italy. In addition to the scientific satisfaction offered by this teaching, I had the pleasure to get into long-lasting contact with Chinese university staff, whereas in Pavia, I met for the first time a brilliant young assistant named Michele Calvi. Recalling this international experience of lecturing and teaching, I would say that such an enlargement of audiences is a gift of God to an engineer coming from a small European country. At this point, as I finish my confession regarding the teaching activities, I must admit that the even greater satisfaction one feels later on when one is proud of his or her numerous ex-students as they become distinguished consultants or contractors, as well as professors, locally or abroad. And I was offered this kind of pleasure, and I'm thankful to those distinguished ex-students of mine. If I may now take you along of my research adventures, I should begin with the foundation of our laboratory of reinforced concrete and masonry structures in the National Technical University of Athens. With a group of excellent collaborators, we founded a well-equipped laboratory more than half a century ago. Our principle, however, ladies and gentlemen, was that no experimental investigation will be initiated unless a complete analytical solution of the problem has been already attempted. Thus, the uncertain and or unknown natural mechanisms were identified, and an order of magnitude of the parameters of related phenomena was estimated. Consequently, The design of an experiment aims mainly at understanding these mechanisms rather than obtaining a mere list of numerical results. In this way, in the majority of cases, the outcome of our experimental work was not a formalistic model or an empirical formula, but a calibrated theoretical model. This means that we were obliged to train ourselves intensively in theoretical research. At the end of the day, this helped to produce design formula that were both more rational and easier to modify in the future. One of the sectors of our research was a great social subject, social interest, and of scientific significance. It was necessary to fight against the empiricism governing seismic repair and strengthening of existing reinforced concrete structures. It was also impressive that nonlinear analysis of existing seismically vulnerable structures was attracting most of the international research effort, analysis only. But this was not the case with the other side of the inequality of safety, that is the available resistance of the critical region after its structural repair. It was remarkable that up to some years ago, highly respected regulatory documents, I don't like to name countries, limited themselves to merely require that such regions should behave monolithically after the structural intervention, a requirement that is both scientifically wrong and clearly inadequate without detailed recommendations for redimensioning. As early as 1970, we focused our research on this subject based on the mechanics of interfaces as a function of relative displacements, slip, traction, and pressure between the existing substratum and the added concrete layer, the mobilized reactions due to friction, dowel action, pull-out, and press-in, and concrete-to-concrete compression were recorded by means of pertinent constitutive laws, and rational values of mobilized resistances were obtained, and step by step, the same was achieved at the cyclically imposed displacement, earthquake. This was completely transparent design models. The outcome was derived by this mechanism, submittable to appropriate partial factoring for each contributing resistance mechanism separately. We specialized equally in masonry mechanics under similar conditions, under seismic conditions, which, as you know, masonry mechanics is a provocative scientific field with an equally high social significance, not only for the homes of the poor, but also for the preservation of monuments. I wish now to refer to international associations. Because of my, so to say, philosophical ideas, I was favorably disposed towards internationalism, despite its side effects due to a possibly simplistic application of this ideal. Let us not forget that non-political regional and world associations have proved throughout history to be clearly beneficial. Therefore, I started offering my humble services to the system of the United Nations. The United Nations European Office at Geneva assigned me the writing of a guide to the repair of seismic damages of buildings. UNESCO, Paris, employed my services as a member of early reconnaissance missions after earthquakes, as well as a consultant in the foundation of technical universities in the developing countries. This was one of the opportunities I had to collaborate with my friends, the late Nick Ambrasius. Similarly, UNIDO in Vienna was an organization I served in its aid of building sector for developing countries. Moreover, I was very active in the UNDP UNIDO long-term project seismic design in the Balkan countries after the Skopje earthquake in 1963. I can assure you that serving social justice at an international level reconciles science to morality. But my international activity was obviously related to materials and structures. I participated in several committees and finally served as president of RILEM, the International Association of Laboratories of Materials. I cannot deny my inclination to steal the nature's secrets by means of experiments. I even confess my reservedness against ostensible analytical exploitation of insufficient basic data. As a national member of the FIP, the International Federation for Pre-Stressed Concrete, I served in its seismic committee from early on, even when we were not yet completely conscious of the adverse effects of high axial forces on ductility. My participation in CEB, today's FIB, the International Federation for Concrete, was long and systematic until I was elected president, and just after that, president of the committee drafting the Model Code of 1990. This was hard work, believe me, and paved the way for the subsequent European Code EC2 for concrete structures, and in the meantime, I had contributed to drafting the CEB Seismic Design Model Code under the chairmanship of Paolo Pinto. I maintain that finally, the resultant of these and other similar efforts throughout the world, mainly though in the United States of America, Europe and Japan, succeeded to bring such a progress in the science and art of reinforced concrete structures that their seismic damages during strong earthquakes were clearly reduced after the turn of the 20th century. My nickname as code-making maniac was quite justified, not only in my country, but also in the European Union and other regions of the world. Part of this inclination, ladies and gentlemen, I owe to my masters, Giulio Ferri-Borges and Franco Levi. For more than 20 years, I devoted considerable efforts to the huge project of preparing a complete set of codes to be applied in all countries of the European Union. The only way to achieve such an agreement between so many countries was to base the entire endeavor on a framework that was as rational as possible. Therefore, we made use of the model codes already prepared by the scientific associations for concrete, steel, timber, etc. In the European Seismic Code, we introduced for the first time a chapter on repair and strengthening. The group of specialists from our laboratory was very active in this long-lasting drafting. The entire business of drafting, discussing, negotiating, and voting the Eurocodes has been a life experience for me. As chairperson of several groups and committees, I had repeatedly to take related initiatives, to read national codes, to pre-draft entire chapters, to travel in order to discuss unofficially with national delegates. Occasionally, of course, additional analytical and experimental research was undertaken. All in all, in this way, I completed my education as well, in addition to having the satisfaction of contributing towards a healthy globalization. It seems that my experience in code making was somehow appreciated by the late Professor Vitelmo Bertero from Berkeley University, and he kindly invited me, together with Professor Faccioli from Milano, to participate in the Central Committee of the Model Code for Seismic Design of South American Countries, an initiative of the government of Argentina. Distinguished scientists, delegates from all South American countries, offered their experience and goodwill towards such an ambitious project despite the important differences both in hazard level and available experience in each of these countries. I admit that for me, this exercise was another opportunity to learn some innovative solutions and to adapt the level of acceptable probability of uncertainties and of failure in accordance with the national priorities and values. And this is science. A similar, possibly less successful initiative was undertaken by the universities of Libya and South Africa towards the drafting of a reinforced concrete model code for the entire continent of Africa. Social, educational, and practical problems needed to be faced, in this case, on top of state-of-the-art considerations. But this, too, was engineering, in this broader sense, of course. Now, with your permission and your patience, let me refer to my memories from World Conferences on Earthquake Engineering. These conferences were for all of us eagerly expected opportunities to be informed about the largest diversity of trends in various fields of this vital sector. The earliest proceedings that I have studied, those of the World Conference in Chile, 1969, already vividly illustrated to me the particular character of these events. I strongly believe that one way, let me put it in another way, one may encounter innovative ideas not only in scientific journals, but also precisely within such proceedings, occasionally published much earlier than in journals. Besides, direct contact with distinguished scientists, this is very important, and contractors from all over the world, has been an invaluable feature of these events. I have participated in 6 World Conferences on Earthquake Engineering. I confess that memories of distinguished participants are even more precious than those of important presentations. The former, that is the persons, served as vivid examples and influenced my own approach to formulating and solving problems. Let me just mention a few of these names: Velletsos, Hausner, Poley, Bertero. I consider them as my teachers and general friends. Shall now come to an epilogue. To summarize, I wish to recall that engineering is related to morality. Why? It involves decision-making that is in turn influenced by moral values. Hence the necessity for a broader humanistic education of engineers. Because of the inherent complexity of natural phenomena, some degree of interdisciplinarity within our engineering skills is inevitable. And finally, since we rarely know in advance the optimum amount of effort needed to solve a problem, we should always be armed with industriousness. Bringing this confession to its end, I wish to also recall that an engineer, younger or older, does not cease to be a human being. Her or his list of existential needs includes also the desire to give meaning to their life and feel felicity. To this end, as far as I'm concerned, I have followed the suggestions of the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. First, to submit myself to a philosophical regime, to culture myself within philosophy, and with the years I was honored with the title of Honorary President of the Greek Society for Philosophy. And second, to embrace as much as possible the stance of amiableness, this combination will result in personal felicity, the Greek eudaimonia. However, if you ask me how much happiness I have felt in my life, I'm not sure I would be able to give you a precise answer. On the contrary, I feel very, very happy at this moment, thanks to the honor you did me by your presence and your kind attention. Besides, thanks to video technology, you will have noticed that I was able to erase my mistakes and let my weaknesses pass unnoticed. Thank you.